Hello and welcome back to JLXP. The 1 year hiatus was broken last week with Ox doing the LCK episode. Well received. Thank you everyone for watching that, like and subscribe and commenting. This week we have Cubby for the LPL, so we're getting the LCK and the LPL out first, and I can announce that I will also be doing an LEC episode. So that's as far as I can promise. But Cubby, how you doing, man?
Fun. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun to talk about the LPL teams. Definitely was a crazy first year of me covering this league. I always kind of follow the LCK over the LPL, but I gained a new respect for everyone that covers the LPL, man. It's like 850 games.
Yeah.
For the whole league, it's a lot.
Yeah, so absolutely. For those of you who don't know Cubby, you were casting on the LPL English, like unofficial but kind of official feeling broadcast for the whole year. Talk to me a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah, so that in the past, I've done NACL now for 4.5 years. I got to show up a couple times on the LCS, and then mostly just covering the Dev League stuff out here. So CLOL finals, consistent one for me, and then I got to do Game Changers too. The 1 year I did that in studio, which was a cool experience. But yeah, outside of that, I've been helping out with a video game behind the scenes, which is kind of interesting. It's a game called Esports Team Manager that goes live. The demo goes live on Steam next week.
Okay.
So it's kind of a spreadsheet game. So if you like out of the park baseball or football manager, it's like that, but you run an esports team, which has been interesting. So yeah, that's all that's been keeping me busy of late. But LPL keeps you very busy as
Yeah.
it's games every night. So yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely one of the hardworking casters with all the different leagues you have to cover and keep up with, because it's not like you aren't keeping up with a little bit of LCK and a little bit of LTA. Like, you're watching League
Oh, yeah.
pretty much 24/7. So one thing, I loved the episode with Ox. It was great. It was also 2 hours long. So we're gonna keep this one. We're gonna keep this one a little bit shorter. And if I had one regret, it was the long tangent we went on before we went and like top down the league. So we're gonna be a little bit more focused this time. For those of you who didn't watch the first episode, I want to just explain the purpose of these. They're kind of like Worlds prep calls. So I haven't watched that much LPL, so I'm not the expert here. Cubby is the expert, and I'm essentially just extracting information from you that people can hopefully gain before they watch World, so they have a better idea of who the LPL teams are. So my current understanding of the LPL is I watched a few of the games. I watched some of the finals. I've seen them at MSI. I watched them at First Stand, but they've had a really wild year. I feel like every region actually had their own ridiculousness switching over to a 3-split format, because they went a little bit crazy in every single way. But at the end of the day, like, the 4 teams that qualified from the LPL do feel, you told me they do feel like the 4 best teams in the LPL. But talk to me a little bit about kind of how the year started and how it progressed.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of people's first impression of the LPL was just First Stand and Top Esports kind of bombing out, right?
Yeah.
It was interesting for me because obviously this was the first year that I followed LPL the most. I've showed up in the LCK in the past, right? And I've always followed that league since the days of OGN. I mean, I was there pretty much since like the winter split of season 4, where SKTT1 went perfect, and a wee bit before that. So I don't know all the history of LPL and the fandom, but there's a real hate in the fandom kind of for Top Esports because this team can just never finish the job internationally, right? And it's not like LPL teams have this expectation to go win worlds, right? I think there have been very few tournaments where LPL teams have actually come in as the favorites. But still, if Top Esports has like never been a team that's really met the expectations, and so that kind of set a raw vibe for the LPL for the whole year. But I really feel like AL was kind of an uplifting force, just having a new brand and a new team with some familiar faces and committing to a dev project that actually lasted a while. I mean, Hope, Kyle, and Shanks were in the team, and Flandre and Tarzan coming in just kind of made this, like them plus Tabe just made this team that's like, okay, this is one of the most competitive LPL teams we have, right?
Yeah.
And they really showed that at MSI, as I definitely had them as the team that was kind of AL were the team with the brain, and BLG were the team with just brawn that came into the MSI, and that's kind of how they played.
Yeah.
And that somewhat followed for the summer split, where I think both of our MSI reps had a little bit of a hangover after that in EWC, which is understandable. I mean, that happens globally, and that's an aggressive schedule for those teams. But AL really never resumed form. BLG peaked with their form with Shadow and ended up finding the win, but that is still, at least in my eyes, a flawed team. even if they did end up winning the region, right? So,
Right. So let's just
yeah.
quickly. Split one was won by TES. Split two
Yep.
was won by AL, and then split three was won by BLG. And then IG has the fourth slot, which they'll have to play against T1 in the qualification match. So in a sense, like
Right.
that's pretty nice that the three split winners, even though the split win isn't the exact thing that granted them the world's qualification, all three of their split winners are heading to the world championship, which is like a pretty decent feeling for the region in terms of sending their best.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And not just that too, but like split two regular season, only JD Gaming placed above one of the four teams, and IG took third in the bracket. So, I do feel like there's a real sense where if you look at the regular season results, where IG and Top Esports they won the split three regular season too, right? Even though IG had to qualify through the gauntlet and didn't make it to the finals. But I really feel like there is a pretty definitive like, okay, these are the best four teams we sent, right? JD Gaming had big flaws. Weibo Gaming also like has flaws. I think we're still seeing those at ASI. These teams aren't perfect, but yeah, they were the four best teams that they really proved through the group Ascension, because in LPL for the regular season they split up the
Group good, group bad.
six. Yeah, there's a group good, group bad, and Group Nirvana played like way less games split two, whereas Group Ascension played a double round robin of best of threes among 10 teams, and the same for 8 teams in the summer.
Jeez.
So I think there's a lot of blood between these teams just because you see a lot of gameplay. And so I always have to look at the LPL like maybe we just have more stage data that these teams are sloppy because they beat each other. And
Right.
LPL, I think traditionally, even though they haven't had the success that they have won in the Worlds historically, I think you can always look at this region and be like, man, if they sent the fifth or sixth best team, like that team still has a really good chance to make quarters, right?
Yep.
And I don't feel that way as much this year, but still feel like whatever team emerges domestically from this region, they were tested throughout the year with the games they played and the level of competition they had. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Even
always
just
safe.
within the LPL, Top Esports played 156 games. BLG played 148 games. AL played 142 games, and Invictus Gaming played 140 games. Like
Yeah.
JDG played 145. There's more and fewer games depending if you're good or bad. RNG played 31 games. Like that's fewer games than DSG. So they had a ridiculous format because they have 17 teams, 18 teams, and they eliminated RNG like in split two, which was the craziest format thing I've kind of ever seen.
Yes, it was very wild, and I think it only worked out this year because sadly, I mean, RNG might just be gone from the LPL,
Right.
which is that's sad to lose a legacy brand like that for any league, right? As we've experienced on this side of the pond. So, it was a crazy format though. The split two group Nirvana, it was a 16 group where it was a single round robin of best of threes. So you're playing 5 best of threes like for your chances to go to Worlds, right?
Yeah.
And while those teams didn't do significant damage, there were a couple Nirvana teams that actually won, and because they had a play-in for the double elimination bracket between the 4 group Ascension teams and the 4 group Nirvana teams to just make it into the bracket. And a couple of them won. Like EDG was.
So real quick, Ascension and Nirvana, that's not a super clear good and bad.
Ascension was good, Nirvana was bad.
Okay.
I liked what Ox and the LCK used, where they had group gaming and group culture. That was like their in-house names. Because if you're gonna watch the bottom group,
It's for
you
the
truly
culture.
are cultured in the game. Yeah, it was for the culture. It was pretty fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, real quick, we're going to hit the overarching storylines for the LPL, and then we'll go team by team. So with Worlds going back to China this year, this feels like a really, really important Worlds for them to perform, because I'd say the last true Worlds that we've had in China was all the way back in 2017, which is crazy considering it's the most populous region, because it was supposed to be there in 2020. COVID hit. It was technically there in 2020. I was there, but it was no audience until finals. It was quarantine for everyone. Then it was supposed to be there again in 2021 as a makeup, but then COVID had legs and they moved it to Iceland. So they missed, like they had Worlds 2020, 2021, and then it just Worlds went on its cycle again. Finally, it's back in China in 25, but like that's an insane drought of home turf Worlds. And then you look at the fact that we were going through this before, but I just want to restate it. Like in terms of international LPL versus LCK clashing, the LCK has taken everything recently. So for a while, it was seeming a little bit closer. So LPL has been particularly good at MSI. They won MSI 2015, which is before people were really taking them seriously against the LCK. That was the first MSI when they game fived Morgana into Faker's LeBlanc and won. Then there was a big drought, but then we had Uzi win MSI in 2018. We had RNG starting to dominate in 2021 and 22, and we had JDG win in 23. So there were 3 years in a row when LPL won MSI. They actually have 5 MSI titles to LCK's 4. Worlds is a different story. There was a brief moment of LPL doing well. Worlds win 2018 IG, Worlds win 2019 FPX, Worlds win 2021 EDG. But overall, Korea's won 9 world titles to LPL's 3. And the last international win really for the LPL was that MSI in 23. So they've gone 24 worlds, 24 MSI, 24 worlds, 25 MSI. That's a 4 international tournament drought. So it's feeling a little bit less like a rivalry and more like a S tier, A tier.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'd agree. And I know that Ox was on here saying that there's an 80% chance that an LCK team wins World. I mean, I'm aligned with that, even going into this year. And I think this is something where I can't speak to the history as much as someone like, Nymera, who has been following this more religiously. And they've said that they really feel like this is a year where, China really wants to, almost has to win Worlds for the region. Like, if there's not a win, popularity of this game is almost cannot be sustained at what it is over there, esport wise, because they don't feel that they are as competitive. And it's funny because obviously in that drought, Faker's team wasn't as good in those years. And I mean, I think one of the crazier stats that he has in his career is that he's never lost to an LPL team at Worlds.
Yeah.
That is like the most ballistic stat that he might have in his pantheon of whatever is going to go into his Hall of Fame resume at the end of his career. So yeah, it's interesting to me. I think that this year, I mean, we could talk about some of the big picture like brushstrokes as to why I don't feel as confident in the LPL teams.
Let's do it.
So I mean, first off, I think that what we've seen globally emerge, and this is like from running a team GM perspective, right? I think we've seen a lot of 2-year plans when you look at teams in NA, EU, and the LCK, right? You think of T1, that was obviously longer than a 2-year plan. Now they have Dorn in. I think the changeover there was mostly inspired by the fact that there were salary caps, right? I don't think a team like Gen G is running a player like Duro unless they have the salary cap, and you're forced to actually develop someone to be a salary cap player. And I think that you could argue that Duro is one of the more valuable players that now exist in the LCK because he's not getting paid as much as Ruler and Chovy. I don't know what the numbers are, but we can guarantee that.
Yeah.
And he's been really valuable. He's developed into a really valuable piece for that team. So you have G2 that's, I think they were on a 2-year plan. Now this is the first year of kind of a new plan, right? The LTA teams are definitely 2-year plan teams. Even if with 100 Thieves, I mean, that core still comes from a different team almost, combined with 2. For the LPL, it's all 1-year plans for these teams. BOG has, they kept the core, but they made changes to jungle, right? That's probably the most cohesive plan we have, where AL, they smashed 3 and 2 together with players that have history playing with one another. We have top esports where they swapped a support middle of the year. And that team even kind of had to come together. Again, they have pieces that have played together before, but have come together for this year. IG, same thing. The Shy and Rookie obviously have played in the past, and they come back together and they find some success to actually kind of make it to Worlds, because I'd be very surprised if they would topple T1. But I do think that a lot of the LPL teams are on less cohesive plans versus the opponents that they're going to be facing globally, and that's been part of the reason that's hurt them this year. I also think that, again, like big picture brushstrokes.
Yeah.
What has the LPL been probably most successful at in terms of winning those titles? And for me, it's always kind of going back to the early days where they were known for breaking the game and aggression.
Okay.
I think that Fearless Draft has kind of brought some of that out of the game, and it's just because of like theory of how you practice and the fact that you can only play a comp like that once. I think that historically LPL was really good at like, okay, we have picks like Lee Sin, like Leona, like Annie that are played a lot on our server where we can play really fast and play a game where we almost played so fast that we get to play the macro game that we wanted to play and break the Koreans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost break the game through that. I mean, 2018, it was the flex picks with solo lanes. They had real edge there with Rookie and the Shy. That, I don't think that the way that Fearless works, you can drill or practice that to the same level that you used to be able to. Because you're not
Interesting.
playing 5 games of Renekton and Cassante every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're playing that maybe once within a 4-day span now. I do think that fundamentally, LPL teams have always kind of been catching up to how you play the map and the meta, and LCK has still been the team that really set the pace with that. The Golden Road teams were the ones like the RNGs and the JDGs in the past that did play that elite macro and then could bring the aggression. That's kind of like what made them a great team. But historically, the map play has always been better in LCK, and you could almost argue some years EU too, with how G2 was playing the mid games back then.
Interesting.
So I think, like, again, high level, that has hurt LPL, especially with how the game has changed. There have been more objectives introduced into the game, and the LCK teams overall, that league has better objective setups than anyone else in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's the real edge they have, and LPL is yet to really be able to close the gap in that aspect. Because the objectives are too strong to ignore. You can't go play somewhere else. You have to team fight in the end. And the way that the LCK team fights and sets up those objectives is just still next level, from the top tier teams to even the bottom tier teams that do this better than a lot of teams across the globe. So I think there are some high level paint strokes that like the LPL has just struggled to adopt it with in this year in terms of how their teams were run, GM wise, how the game evolved, that they just haven't closed the gap in as well. And yeah, I think that overall they play a little bit of a sloppier version of League right now than what we see in LCK. And that's definitely been a difference maker in them, I think, hoisting game fives, which they were able to get against LCK teams at MSI, weren't able to win.
I mean, that's really interesting, thinking about the way that the LPL teams had won in the past, because you can just imagine, I kind of feel like the original IG, Rookie and the Shy, as much as they did rely a bit on flex picks, I feel like they won because it was like solo lane dominance and the removal of extra wards. I think that was a big thing. So like maybe that team is just as effective and fearless, but then you go to a team like FPX or even the Uzi version of RNG that won 2018 MSI, like FPX had a very narrow mid lane pool and then also had a very narrow top lane pool, right? Like they were very drilled and very specific on the things that they were playing. You know, mid lane Nautilus, they never played Akali, even though it was a main meta champion. And then the Uzi teams was like, which hyper carry can Uzi play? Is it Ezreal or Kai'Sa? And like, just imagine that in Fearless. You give Kai'Sa, you play Ezreal, and then Uzi, then he's on Vayne. Like it just stretches to, eventually he's going to play a utility pick. And maybe that team would have fallen apart even a little bit faster. That's interesting, when they excelled by being super dominant at one specific thing that was different than what the LCK was. But now with Fearless, even though it creates this interesting feeling of like a refreshed game, at a certain level, it does make everything a little bit the same by the end of it. We still haven't really figured out Fearless because it's the first year of doing it for full.
So it's been interesting. Obviously, I cover some different leagues that not everyone follows, like the NACL. We had a team take third where the two solo laners played like really eclectic champion pools.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking, they're playing Mordekaiser and Shen top, and then pretty much like the mid laner had Zoe permaban from him because he's 25-1 on Zoe competitively. Shout out to Samakin. And then played Mel, had real value, was playing Aurora, which was more meta. But like they were managed to find these like off meta picks to win him Fearless. And I feel like a lot of the way that teams play Fearless is that it's tier list drafting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a point that Jamada has made that I very much agree with is that Fearless kind of boiled out some of the team identities. Like there no longer is the choice where if you see a Zir, you know, I could play a Victor, but I could also play a Silas. And that was really where your team identity could emerge. You can kind of make those decisions still, but they get filtered out throughout Fearless where things are so strong, like, okay, I kind of have to play Sivir at some point, right? Or I might have to play a Kai'Sa dive comp. And that goes for teams globally, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you that there still is some experimentation to do with Fearless. And I think the AL really benefited off of being the team that played it best. I think LPL teams like kind of struggled with drafting on red side. Blue side was very heavily advantaged in the league throughout the year. And AL was the team where, you know, with Tabe, I feel like he got a lot of kudos for how he drafted and played, and that happened on the global stage too. So, yeah, I think overall there's a lot of experimentation that is lacking with Fearless. It's funny. I mean, the first point that Ox made about T1 was that Carrier just can't define the meta this world. So I think that's a big story coming in.
Right.
Like if things go bad for T1, you can't play Ashe, Pike, Bard, and like just start winning games from there because no one's been able to beat you. It's going to be different this year, just with the format. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting curveball for everyone.
I think we're on a good pace so far. We just did the big picture. Now we're going to go team by team. Should we go 1-4 or 4-1 for the teams?
Well, that's up to you because I don't think we're going to be spending much time with IG.
Let's start with IG because I do think this is the team that we're going to be seeing first. So, if you're someone who digests this podcast over a series of days, like you need to get the IG preview before they play T1 on the 14th of October, which at the time of recording is like less than 4 days from now. Going to see how long this takes to upload. But IG, they ran it back with the GOATs, right? They have the Shy, they have Rookie, they have world champion Mako, they have Wei and Gala. You mentioned this team was a little bit thrown together, almost a reinvestment into the IG brand. How have you felt like they've performed this year? What's the story of their year?
Honestly, I'm very happy that IG is at Worlds. I'm kind of bummed that they probably only get to play one best of 5 and that's it. This was a team that I found very fun to watch. The Shy was in good form this year. For all the memes, obviously, I mean, they're the biggest influencer we have in League loves the Shy, right? He played good this year. I think that one of the interesting parts for me is that he really embraced the tank meta in the top lane. And he's an incredible Ornn player. Like the way this guy plays Ornn, he's actually getting more out of some of these tank champions because I think a fun conversation if you're a tank player is that you have a lot of opportunities to show your mechanics because you're going to be going through more ability rotations. The Shy really embraced that. And it was weird to see him go from, I mean, I have his like Renekton in a pantheon of player champion combos. I think so highly of him playing some of the champions that he can play at the highest level. I mean, Ornn for me has been added to that. And it's the first split I've really seen him like embrace that role versus others.
Yeah, it's his third most played. He's got 15 Rumble, 14 Jace, 13 Ornn, 11 Gwen, 10 Yorick. I mean, with Fearless, you're always going to have this like pretty deep spread, but that's a fun spread. Rumble, Jace, Ornn, Gwen, Yorick, Ambessa, Aurora. Like that's a lot of top lane Aurora games. Sion, Nidalee, Renekton. So he's playing, to your point, everything. This is a full mix of tanks and carries. Still more carries than most players. Like I doubt many players have Jace as the second most played champion. But no, it's a big mix of everything.
Yeah, he played a lot more tanks throughout the back half of the year. And I think what really emerged for IG, so it's funny, I was kind of talking about how I feel like team identities have been just nerfed in Fearless because you're forced to play different things. You can't kind of commit to playing one style throughout a series. IG's style, if they had any, it was late game team fighting. This team, post 40 minutes, team fought really well. They got a lot of games back and at the end of the games. I think that Gala, the way that he piloted those fights were quite good. Mako had a kind of an iffy year, but split 3 played very well until playoffs. I thought he was the best support for regular season. And then playoffs, IG kind of bombed out of playoffs. They lost to good teams. I think they lost to 2 teams at Worlds. I think they lost to PLG upper and then AL lower. But yeah, it was interesting to kind of see IG at least find this late game identity that I trusted them in late fights. So I think that's almost the worst style to bring to T1 because they can be so good early that they beat you, and then they also kind of have this plot armor late game team fighting that they legitimately do really well. But yeah, I think for me, IG, I mean, strength was definitely the Shine Rookie. Rookie was also in our MVP voting for LPL overall, like not just the English broadcast, but the LPL main broadcast. I think he was the second team All-Pro mid that we voted on.
Right.
The Shy was up there. Mako was our first team support. Gala was in the top 3 for ADs, which is saying a lot because Pays had a fantastic year who's not here, and Pays was always in the top 3 for AD voting.
Yeah. I can read it out. I can read it out real quick. So Jackie Love won MVP. Yeah. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yes.
But then first team All-Pro just from IG was the Shy. Then 3 TES players, Kanavi, Jackie Love, and Hung. And then Knight was All-Pro mid first team. But then, second All-Pro team was Rookie Gala Mako for mid AD support. So IG got really recognized in the award voting, which is, in LPL, it's still regular season voting, right? Like they don't do the voting after playoffs. Yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. So IG actually has full representation on All-Pro teams despite being the 4 seed. They have first team top, second team mid AD support, and third team jungle with Wei. What happened with What happened with JJ? Because he's the one that has most of the games this year.
Yeah.
When did Wei come in, and why did that happen?
Wei came in later on. There was a rumor that like the team was kind of bumping heads, like behind the scenes. It's kind of hard to follow like LPL rumors because they come out on Weibo and you have to translate. Like you don't exactly know what's true or not. At least I don't have sources in the LPL. We kind of have to trust what our fearless leader Kelsey Moser goes off of. Which
Sure.
Kelsey
Which
is
pretty
the
accurate.
best when it comes to LPL. She's very good. But yeah, they made a swap. I think JJ wasn't playing his best. I was really surprised it wasn't BLG JJ. Because when we get to BLG, I think Shadow is having the best split I've ever seen Shadow have, but I still feel like that team is limited by jungle and support. I think IG is somewhat limited by Wei. He will play a jungle game where he will very much sacrifice himself for his lanes, which is what that team needs on paper. Sometimes it is a bit too much, and I think Wei was. I thought Wei was okay. It's just he's very much like your utility jungler, where we're going to make sure that we have good engages, we play the map well and cleanly, and kind of go from there. I feel like that's what this team, in a sense, needed, but this team sometimes just kind of falls apart in early games in a way that is kind of inexplainable. Just given, I mean, the talent on this team, I think 5 years ago versus now was probably better, but I still think very highly of these individuals. And you were highlighting the All-Pro votes. They were second in the regular season, so they did have a good regular season, but still, I feel like this team's decision-making early on, a lot of LPL teams will just take fights that I don't think they can afford. And I'm really curious going into Worlds because I think that as games get more and more competitive, you kind of sign up for less fights overall because you get to bigger games. You don't want to lose them at that aspect. I'm curious if the LPL will start to drop more objectives because I would see IG take a fight where it's like, why are we fighting in the anti-Wukong at this time? Like then they would, and they would lose, right? And then they kind of get behind, crawl back into the game later on and find wins. So yeah, I'm curious if they clean that aspect up. Because on average, I mean, this was a team that was down 470 gold at 15 across all of summer.
Wow.
So that's like,
and they still finished second.
And they were this, yeah. So it did come from some of this heroic late game team fighting. I think that Gala was really quick to adapt Yunara, which helped, and was very good in the hyper carries. So again, I feel like Gala and Mako. A lot of my performance for this team kind of rode on Mako. Just I think jungle support matters so much in this meta with the lanes being pretty locked. Like what's going to impact the lanes is those variables. And when Mako and Wei were playing better earlier in the regular season, they were able to get this team off to a little bit of better footing because they can team fight later. Like Gala and the Shy team fight very well. But yeah, some fights they were just stubborn, and I think that's going to be a common trend with a lot of our LPL teams. But they just signed up for fights they're going to take a fall behind.
Did LPL playoffs have the virus of 3-minute lane swaps or like level 180 carry tops? That didn't happen in LPL playoffs.
They were a patch behind. Right. So we were on 17 instead of 18.
Yeah.
Like most of the world, and there was none of that.
Okay, and it's interesting because like that maybe affected the qualification of some teams, and now they've moved it so the lane swap detection moves to 4 minutes. So if you are gonna have like you can still send your 80 carry top. It's just he's gonna have to be alone until 4 minutes instead of 3, which then makes him vulnerable to like the first jungle gang timing. So it's a little interesting. But that's going to be less of a case for LPL teams and more of a case for the teams that were really using that every game in playoffs.
I still think you're going to see the swaps, and we could see bot lanes start mid if things get weird. There's real edge for me in like having, if you draft Kai'Sa or Corki, who are going to be very meta, getting them, like they're really good with D-Blade, and they benefit from solo XP. So I think any AD where that's the case, I like the change they made because, again, you're going to be vulnerable to the bounce now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like you push in the first 3 waves, then your support goes and rotates to you up in the top side, where you can't do that because they delayed the timer. And playing the bounce against a top laner is really scary. Like if you're an AD and it's level 4 Renekton and you're level 3, that's a bad spot to be, right?
Yeah. The lane's too long.
I'm curious how that impacts it. Yeah, I'm curious how that impacts it. I don't have the scrim data on that one yet. I'm still on the promotion.
Let's do Hero Star for IG. For people that didn't see the last episode, this is like a storytelling tool that the English language broadcast have been using for years. You essentially just like have to pick who's the biggest story player, like which player has the greatest storyline on this team, who's going to be the hero, and then the star is just literally who is actually the best player on this team, in your opinion. It's tough with it. Like this is essentially a team of legends, right? So
it is. I I mean, I think the story, or at least the hero in a way, it's hard not to say the Shy, just because he's been playing really well this year. I know that behind the scenes, like there have been splits where he struggles with I believe it's a wrist injury. I don't want to speak out of line, but I know he struggles with a injury of some sort. Like he can't play the same amount of games that he used to when he felt like he was at his best. But he is playing really, really good league. For me though, I almost want to go with Mako, just because I really feel like this team gets going if Mako plays well. As Gala like really was solid this year. And especially in those late game team fights where I feel like Gala very consistently performed. Mako was kind of the one that would set the pace with Wei, and I felt like was just more important given the bot lane for IG. If things got off to a good start, that was much better for IG. So in a way, I feel like if this team is going to win, he has to really step up and be the one support from the LPL that really could rival a lot of the LCK supports. He goes up against, for me, the only player in the world that can wake up any day and be the best support on the planet, and that's Keria. Because if they don't win that best of 5, they're not in the tournament. So I almost feel like the hopes have to ride on Mako just having a big series and trying to rival Keria, which, again, I think historically, Mako and Ming were the two supports for the LPL that were able to do that and play at the highest levels. So if Mako can step up to that, I feel like that's really the thread that I would follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we haven't even talked about Rookie versus Faker, right? Who these guys haven't met in so long internationally, and we've kind of been robbed almost of many good years of Rookie, who just wasn't able to make it through gauntlets and wasn't able to make it to the tournament. And I feel like his year is going to end in a best of 5 against Faker.
I mean, it might.
See, but,
I just have this weird feeling about this best of 5 that's coming up between them. Like,
really,
I do. It's because, and I really agree with Ox's point, that T1 tends to scale a bit with the tournament. Like, they don't always start super hot. And traditionally, I mean, I wouldn't say like they don't start hot, but they start with easier opponents usually, because for most of their Worlds runs, they've been thrown in groups, right? Usually groups are one Korean, one Chinese, and then you have like a wild card region back in the day and like the 3 seed from NA or EU. And that's the group that they're in. And Faker would always advance. He'd never lose more than one game, but like they'd look shaky in some games. The first game they play against the LPL team, maybe they drop, and then they'd win the next 5 games, figure out the meta, and like they improve throughout the tournament. But like, bam, right away, thrown in the deep end. If they have the wrong meta read, they're just toast. But you did mention some of the, doubling back a little bit, just because they're insane Faker stats that could get turned around if IG beats them. Like the last 3 Worlds knockout stages, the T1 and Faker have eliminated 7 LPL teams. They've been 7-0 against the LPL in the last 3 World knockout stages. So that includes the 2022 Worlds, where T1 lost the finals to DRX, and then obviously includes the last 2 Worlds in which they
ran the gauntlet of all the LPL teams to win in 23. I think I remember that.
Yeah, and then last year they beat Gen G as one of them, but other than that, they were beating up on the LPL. So yeah, if you removed T1 from the last 3 Worlds, the LPL would actually be 3-2 against the LCK in knockout stage. And if you just do the last 2 Worlds, they're 3-0. So in the last 2 Worlds, the LPL has literally only lost to Faker in knockout stage.
That's pretty crazy.
So if Rookie and the Shy really want to do a solid to the LPL, like this is step 1. Like get rid of the final boss before the game starts. Absolutely. Yeah. Then who cares? They're going to beat T1 and then not make it through Swiss. Like that's the true IG experience.
that would be the most IG thing they could possibly do. Yeah, and Rookie and the Shy would just be absolute legends in China if they ended up doing this.
That's all they don't need to win again. They just need to get rid of Faker.
I think your meta read's right. I mean, I remember specifically, I had one friend who was friends with someone that was like kind of within T1, and he said it was in 23 after they lost to Weibo or played Weibo close in like the Swiss stage. They completely changed up their read after that,
and they slammed BLG in like the next round. Yeah.
And they just started putting Keria on Ashe, right? On the picks where, again, if T1 plays that style, I mean, no one in the world can beat them. They proved that for like 3 years. And they don't have the option to do that this event, and they don't have the option to do that in a do or die best of 5. So I that's a very fair point that Ox made and that you made. I don't believe in IG enough, man. And none of the LPL teams have really sold me on like truly believing that they can beat the best of the best from Korea this year, which I think is going to be an interesting conversation through Worlds because, again, I think that just between late changes, some players on some rosters like not being proven, uh, like at the highest level. I think that there are weaknesses that will be exploited by the best teams in the world, or could be on every team that the LPL is sending, which is going to be interesting to follow. For IG, it's their early game. They just
Right.
aren't a good enough early game team. And I think they're very stubborn in some of the fights they take. So I hope they kind of flush that out of themselves when they play a really intense matchup and hopefully decide to drop a Drake or two they don't need to
Yeah.
fight.
Okay, you gave me hero. You haven't given me star. Who's their best player? The All Pro
I
vote would
think
say it's the Shy, but
it would. I think that it legitimately was probably the Shy. I would either have to go with him or Gala, just because Gala was that late game hero, and I think sometimes slept on. But no, I think the Shy had a very real argument for being the best top laner from the LPL this year,
okay.
which is crazy because that's going up against Bin, right? But Bin had a down split, and Flandre is kind of Flandre. 369 is pretty solid for the most part, but then has games where he leaves you scratching your head. Shy has moments where he leaves you scratching your head, but no, I think overall this guy actually played really well. He was innovating some picks. I mean, I really feel like the Ornn that he was using a lot was big. Nidalee top was him. Being able to play that. And yeah, you said he's still playing as Jace. His Jace is really good still.
Yeah.
Like that and the Gnar when he wants to play it. So I was really high on the Shy this year. I really enjoyed watching him play. And I know that sometimes you can still have like oopsies or haha moments, but you take the good with the bad, and I think that the Shy had much more good than bad that I can remember this split. I really don't remember a lot of the haha moments or having those lead to just being complete, like, oh, we lose.
Right.
Even the loss against IG, I believe he was like 3-0 or 5-0 on Jace, and like the rest of the map was just on fire. Like the loss they had against BLG and Bin
Okay.
in one of the series that I remember. So I do think that he played quite well.
All right.
Uh,
Real quick
so yeah.
before we do TES, the number 3 seed, what is your, as the least biased LPL caster, what is their percentage chance they win against T1 in the play-in match?
Just because it's a new patch, I'd probably give them 10 to 15%.
10 to 15? No. I'm giving them
really
40, but okay.
You're giving them 40,
I'm giving
really?
them 40.
Yeah.
I'm spooked for T1.
It's the T1. It's like, I don't know if it's just like year 4 of the plot armor. I'm so not convinced. I really feel like T1, like the big edge they had across LPL teams is that they play jungle support so well. And I don't think that any of the jungle supports can match Owner or Keria on that team. So I really favor T1 against a lot of the LPL teams being sent, because there really is only one jungle support I believe in to go up against all the Korean teams. That's going to be Tarzan and Kael.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Fine. Just, I mean, it's good for World's viewership if T1 makes it. Probably even, I feel like there's a chance T1 is still the most popular team in China just because Faker is so globally recognizable. But okay, we're moving on to TES. Give me a quick overview of their split 1-2-3, because they won.
Yeah.
Like I know their split 1. They were dominant. They absolutely imploded at first stand. But then, what was their road to recovery like? Because they still seemed to always be in the mix all throughout split 2 and split 3.
This is a really good regular season team. I think a lot of it is, so without knowing the comms on that team, I think that you cannot know the comms and watch that team play and very confidently say, okay, this team runs through Kanavi.
Okay.
He is the one that is dictating the early game aggression, the invades. I think that at their best in split 1, this was a team that they were playing the swaps pretty well, and then those got taken away, and Jackie Love was just camped with Crisp in that tournament, and they just never had a plan to recover. I think that at times when Kanavi can't play his game or the early game, they can sometimes struggle to find the right secondary plan to win games. But if the plan is how Kanavi is going to play out the game, and Kanavi gets a game where he can play, he is an elite jungler. He is one of the best junglers that we have in the world. So I really feel like this team did benefit from playing winning lanes and playing for Kanavi to invade, be aggressive, and kind of set the pace and the tone of the game. And Kanavi, when Top does that, this is a very good team. So for me in regular season, that was just a Kanavi played to a level of aggression where, and consistency where they were just able to win a lot of games.
Mm.
And I think Kanavi, like, I really did not deem him to be a choker at all this year. The beat that I used with this team that has been the case for all year, and a case that I think that you're going to be familiar with, someone that has worked these international events before, but I think this team just goes as far as Cream takes them. I do not
Mm.
have Cream as being a strong enough mid laner to play with a team that is at this caliber and to go international. I think that Cream has some picks that he plays very well. Looking
Hmm.
at picks like the Akali, like the Silas, like the Tristana that he's been able to pull
Yeah,
out at
and
these
he's
tournaments in the
probably his
past.
best.
No, he's not a good Annie.
Really?
So like it was in regular season, but I watched a game 5 where he's choking Annie combos. Like we're starting with Tibbers instead of Q on flashless targets, right? And that
Okay.
cost them a dive. Like it might have cost them the game. So like for me after that too, like if we can't play Annie at that level, like there's a bit of a choker narrative for me personally
Mm.
because I haven't
Hmm.
seen this guy step up, and I just don't have Cream as the mid laner that can compete with the ones that the LCK are sending.
Yeah,
Because the batch of mids that the LCK are sending this year
for
are
sure.
really good with BDD being in the tournament now too. Um, I don't have faith in Cream to be consistent enough on enough picks throughout a fearless best of 5 for top esports to be able to compete with those teams like at the highest level globally. And it's kind of sad that like I'm picking on one player because I think that there are some team things too, but I actually thought this team like plays good macro and plays well as a team, and again plays through Kanavi. But
Hmm.
I had a lot of games where Cream just doesn't play well enough as an
Right.
individual,
So it's
and that really had to
basically
stop.
they were first place in split 3 in the regular season,
Mhm.
reinforcing your statement that they're a great regular season team. Jackie
Mhm.
Love won the regular season MVP. Kanavi was first team All Pro jungle.
Mhm.
369 was second team All Pro. Cream was third team All Pro mid. There were past worlds with 369. He's been on a lot of really good teams, including the JDG team that won the last MSI for the LPL in 23. There was times where like this guy was looked at as the best top laner in the world. Where is he
Yeah.
landing now? Like what's his arc been like this year?
I think that he's still been good to fine. It in the LPL, I mean, I think that we sent the top 4 teams. Weibo and JDG were probably the 2 most competitive teams on paper, and by the end of the year, there were a couple teams in Team WE and FPX that pushed some of these teams around or challenged them on Split 2. They did an immersion Split 3. Part of that was Shadow was on FPX and went to
Mm-hmm.
BLG. Part of that was at WE, just kind of lost steam. As that was a team. Monkey was a really fun jungler to follow. He's like a domestic hero. He's not going to see international play, but that was a team that was Monkey's good. The rest of the team is not as good as Monkey. I mean,
I
his solo
see.
his laners were like Karis and Taeyun,
Yeah.
who were just LCK rejects, and they were beating good teams. Like that was pretty impressive. I believe they took out top esports or JDG in the split 2 bracket. I'd have to look, but that just didn't happen in split 3. So again, I think the top like where 369 was very clearly one of the better, if not the best top laners.
Mm.
But I really feel like top lane was just kind of on a down this split, or it was just harder to rate who was really good. Because for me, 369, I don't think that he really changed my mind at all with
Mm-hmm.
how I assess him as a player. I felt like he was playing the best in split 1, and he's still been good. But again, I thought the Shy was the strongest top laner that we had. And there were some series where he was able to make a big difference, and others where it was kind of meh. I think Cassante and Sion were probably his 2 best champs
Definitely more of a
with
tank
his team.
bias this split. Like
Definitely
split
more tank
3,
bias.
most played Scion, Cassante, then Rumble because everyone plays Rumble, then Aatrox, Gnar, Ornn, and Bessa. 2 games of Jace towards the bottom, 1 game of Renekton. So yeah, they're not putting him in situations where he takes a lot of resources. I mean, I imagine this team plays through Jackie Love the majority of the time.
Yeah. Um. So Jackie, there were like his Sivir was ended up being kind of illegal just to hand over.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I thought Jackie was fantastic this split. It wasn't quite as good during the playoffs, but did carry some games. And the fun thread about Jackie Love, I mean, it's a little bit sad, but he's been battling an injury this year. There was a clip that we translated from his stream on the LPL
Mm-hmm.
where he can only sit down and play like I think 2 games in a row at a time, and then he has to get up. He's having an issue with his ears,
Okay.
where he had to like remove his headphones.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how that like really hampered his practice. And there's a rumor that this could be Jackie Love's final year competing, just given that and other things. He was the MVP.
Yeah.
For the LPL English broadcast, we gave Knight the MVP,
Okay.
and both split 2 and 3. As I think Knight, I voted for Knight, but
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Love MVP is dictated off of Pogs, and he had the most Pogs, and Jackie Love was fantastic. And I think he was second in our MVP voting as a English broadcast anyway. But yeah, Jackie was really good. I just think like the team very much plays the tempo they set through Canavi, and then Jackie Love is just when there are team fights and Jackie Love can play the team fights. This guy is an elite 80 carry. He's very, very, very good.
What was the you mentioned a little bit about the off-season changes for this team.
Yeah.
What was the construction like for these guys?
First stand, they had Crispin. It was Jackie Love and Crisp. They found Hong after split 2. And Hong, I mean, he was on Weibo. Hong was playing with, I believe it was the Tarzan LNG squads when he was at Worlds. He's known as a hook champion enthusiast on the ladder. I actually thought, like, I don't think I'm going to have Hong as the hero of this team, but I thought that Hong was a real hero of this team, frankly, coming in.
Okay.
His Alistar play, like he played, his champion pool at support is more narrow, which I think sometimes hurts because there is some karma that we see like emerge globally. He has some karma in there and could play that Enchantress well. He doesn't play any of the others. It's karma, Renata, and there's not going to be a Emilio. There's not going to be a Nami. There's not going to be a Lulu. I'd be very surprised if I see this like from this player in top esports globally. But I thought he played the Engagers really well, and he got benched on Weibo for a mid lane role swap to support Erha that was actually pretty good for rookie support in the LPL. And Weibo didn't stick with him because they just went with Crisp. But I think Hong really benefited off of being with Jackie Love. They were a strong lane together, and Hong played the Engagers really well. I still don't rate him as highly as Kyle, who I think he wasn't the best support in Split 3, but I very much view him as the best support in the region and probably going to be the best support in this tournament for the LPL. But I felt like he was the support that rivaled Mako and Kyle the most, who were the two that I have the most confidence in. And if Mako makes the main stage, I hope he plays well, but I don't have him making the main stage, right? So I really thought that Hong was a big addition to this team and really did his job of engaging with Canavi well.
Yeah, let's do Hero Star. Is this a situation where because of what you mentioned about Jackie Love and him being one of the most popular players in China and him winning MVP, that he's just both Hero Star? It's just all about Jackie Love?
I think it has to be about Jackie Love and Canavi. Okay. For me, those are the two players that really shape the identity of this team. Because Canavi is the one where we're going to play early game for better or worse. We're going to play that through Canavi, through his invades, and support him. So for like, just because Canavi, it's so clear watching this team to me that like he is the tempo man. Like we play off of Canavi's plays in tempo. I almost feel like he is the main character of this team. But like Jackie Love is the main character of this team in a way, right? Just because of I mean, it really is a star player staying on this organization and trying to win it with top esports. As I think his tenure now, this is almost year 6 for him. He's been there since 2020, I believe. And there's been a lot of scenarios where Jackie Love has been the bridesmaid, but never the bride. His domestic final record is not good in the LPL, but he has been in over 10 domestic finals. I think he's like 3-8, something like that. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but there's been a little bit of tragedy for him in terms of being able to hoist the big ones. So yeah, I almost feel like Jackie Love is kind of still the main storyline guy, especially given that this might be his last year playing in his career. But for me, this team is about Canavi because he again sets the tempo, and it's so clear for me watching this team. It's like, oh my god, like we just play through Canavi. Whatever Canavi wants to do, whatever play he wants to make, our solo lanes are supporting him. Our AD is rotating around to fit him, and we're playing Canavi's game however he sees fit. And it just so happens that Jackie Love is one of the best AD carries that we have in the world behind him, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Let's do AL, Anyone's Legend. They were weirdly close. Like, we can say close at MSI because they went to Game 5 against both of the finalists. But ultimately, they didn't even make finals of MSI. They won Split 2. How was their Split 3, and what kind of momentum do they have going into Worlds?
they had quite the hangover in Split 2, just from what happened at MSI and EWC. I feel like Shanks and Flandre were playing much worse this split than what we saw from them in Split 2, and I'd put Kyle in that category as well. Um, Tarzan was, I think it ended up like him looking or being a little bit more flippy, but I feel like some of it was that the solo lanes just weren't playing up to par. But this team still brought it together for playoffs and were competitive.
Yeah, Flandre,
It
Tarzan, Shanks, Hope, and Kyle is the roster. Tarzan, I hear a lot of positive things about Tarzan, but looking at that Split 3 record, they're like, you're not kidding about that hangover. 8-6 in series, 19-15 in games in the regular season. So that's questionable at best.
It was, and the playoff run they had, they got 3-2'd by Weibo in the first round for Split 3, which was and that Xiaohu's team.
Oh, geez, and then had to run the whole lower bracket all the way to lower bracket finals where they lose to TES.
Yeah, so I mean, they doused IG, which was really surprising for me. Because again, I had IG like in finals. If you would have asked me at the start of LPL playoffs, they lost to BLG and AL in like pretty demoralizing fashion.
Yeah.
I'd say. I mean, I think I think IG had like less than a total of 10 kills across 3 maps. Like they got doused. So I mean, I never viewed JDG to be very good. So I think that there is a case where the amount of quality wins that they had in Split 3 definitely less in the LPL. I mean, they ended up going down to Top Esports in the end, who beat them pretty soundly in that series. But yeah, I really feel like Shanks went from being like a mid laner that I was really excited to see go international for the first time, and he did deliver, and he played really well. And then there was a bit of controversy that he had at the start of the season about there was like an online call. I don't think he was. I don't know what exact punishment he faced, but he was very much in the wrong for that. And he just didn't play as well, like this split overall. And I think the form of him, Flandre, and a little bit Kyle decreased, and just led to an AL being not quite as dominant. I also think the meta reads they had were really good in Split 2, and they just couldn't find the same edge in draft they had for Split 3 as well. So I'm kind of hoping that we just see more of the MSI AL than the Split 3 AL. And I do have a lot of hope and confidence that they can actually find that. Because I think Tabe, I mean, Worlds patch is the longest window you get to play the same patch. And I think that Tabe and AL have proven they can find meta edges throughout at least competing in the LPL.
Yep.
And I really hope that Tarzan and Kyle play to the level they can. Because I look at the Korean teams, and I think the edges they really have are individual mid laners and then how their jungle supports play together. And I feel like AL is the one team that can really match the jungle support of the Korean teams. And that's why they went to 5 against Genji and T1. And if they're going to beat a Korean team, I think it has to be the solo lane stepping up. But again, I think jungle support is really good. Like, that's not going to be an inherent weakness, where I think a lot of teams that go up against Canyon and Duro or Owner and Cario, like, that will be a weakness where that tandem just plays better than what the LPL tandems did.
Got it. Man, what a career Tabe has had.
Sincerely,
like,
yeah.
It's insane at this point.
It's so crazy.
Because he was, I mean, I've actually known this guy since he played on the NA server in like 2010, 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before any of this started. I might have been on a Go for All team with him once. Like, it's just ridiculously old school. A lot of the old like Chinese and Korean players played on NA server when the game first launched and were like still top 50 challenger. But yeah, then he goes, plays with Uzi, goes to World Finals, has some like
changes the meta at the tournament.
He then said some like really controversial things in his first like finals interview that got him dogpiled in China. Goes on Analyst Desk in 2015, leaks IG's strategies. If you haven't looked up that clip, please do. It's freaking hilarious. I don't know what he was thinking. Like, he maybe thought we were on delay or that no one was watching, but he's like, I have spoken with their coach and here are their secret picks. And he's just like saying everything. It didn't end up mattering, but we had to pull him off broadcast because he was getting so much hate. But then,
really?
Yeah. For like a segment or two, we're just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like, what is happening? Yeah. So, but that was at this point, like 8 years ago. And then now he's just popped around. He was RNG's coach throughout, multiple MSI victories. he was BOG's coach for so much of their success, and then he just pops to AL, and then like out of nowhere, for like the first time in the org's history, anyone's legends goes to MSI, almost has a good showing. Like this guy's doing something right. Whether it's roster construction, whether it's actual like pick bank game knowledge, or whether it's interpersonal dynamics, it seems like he has a little bit of everything because he just consistently finds success.
I think that he very much benefits, and I don't speak Mandarin. This is more of like what I gather from Kelsey and a couple other things. I don't think the coaching in the LPL overall is as good as other regions, like even Western regions, and I know that might surprise some fans, but yeah, I think that he somewhat benefits from a lack of great coaching in the region overall. But that said, he has proven that he is a good coach internationally as well,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, you're right. It's crazy because I've always just kind of thought of him as like the spokesperson for his region, because he really has been that since he had a mic in 2013. Because he was one of the few people back then that spoke English, right? For because I remember that watching season 3 Worlds, is that he was always doing English interviews and would say kind of wild stuff, and I liked him. It was a lot easier to connect with him, right? He always had personalities. So whatever he's doing with the team is good. I mean, I give him a lot of kudos. I think that AL, again, this is a core of 3 that he kind of stuck with, brought in Flandre and Tarzan. And as a team, I mean, this is probably the team that BLG for me, again, it still is the brawn versus the brain. And I have to root for the team with more brain.
Okay.
Because AL for me is still the biggest brain team that we have coming from the LPL that will be going international. I think between that and how Tarzan and Kyle play, I still think that if there's going to be any team that can beat a Korean team, it's either going to be BLG brute forcing it or AL like beating them in a best of 5 with strategies or just like overall like however they can find ways to win games. So I don't know if I'm going to put more faith in AL or BLG overall. I think that I'll probably have an answer for you after I see him play the first series.
Yeah. Let's do Hero Star. Let's do Hero Star
yeah.
for AL, and then we'll get to your power rankings and BLG.
Tarzan. It's got to be Tarzan to be the star of this team. This guy is so good in the jungle. I sincerely think that before Split 2, he was the best player in league history to not win a domestic final. I think there's a really tough argument that I would like be able to make for a player that was not Tarzan, that did not win a domestic title.
A domestic title, yeah, because
yes, that has been as good as him. He had none, which is crazy to
that
think.
Is
like
crazy.
Going back to the Griffin teams, like how good they were internationally too.
Oh yeah.
But he had never won, and so for him to win was honestly a really big monkey off his back. And I think that he's been fantastic all year. I say a lot that the game, like the top esports game, is kind of run and dictated through Cubby. I get the same feeling with AL, just not to as severe a degree with Tarzan. And I think Tarzan is a little bit less prone to making some poor decisions that Cubby can make with playing too fast at times. So while Cubby, I wouldn't argue against him being the first team All-Pro from the LPL, I would say that Tarzan is still the best jungler that the LPL is sending. I just think overall he plays the best game. And yeah, I just really hope this guy hits his form because he's always been an elite player. And Fearless is really fun for a player like him because his hands are so good and they're still so good that he can really play and bust out. Not just like the standard junglers where he can play the map well, but then also, I mean, like he went legendary on Zed to win the Split 2 finals in Game 4. So he's got that in his back pocket too if he needs it.
Who's the hero? Is it also Tarzan or is it Flandre?
This is kind of a tough one for me. I think that there is a case to be made for Hope, who I don't view Hope as I don't think he is a top tier AD in the LPL. Even if he is on a top tier team. That said, his ability to play hyper carries is pretty good. And I think this could be a tournament where we're going to see more Jinx for sure. We've seen a lot of Unara's Smolder handshakes in EMEA who were playing a patch before. I don't think we're going to see that as much, but if it ends up being more of a hyper carry meta, I trust Hope a bit to actually play with that. I think that's his best pocket to play in for the meta.
Yeah. And
if he steps up, that could be a really big difference maker for AL because I think a lot of the times he's kind of like that quiet hero. Because again, Hayes isn't at this tournament. I'm not going to tell anyone that he's not a better AD than Pays, or Jaculov and Gala, I think, had better years. Even Elk. I think Elk probably, I haven't watched LPL as much in past years, but I'm going to call Elk the hero of BLG because I think that Elk has been consistently the best player for BLG throughout the year. I might be able to say the same argument for Hope. And if the meta falls in the pocket, I think it could. With more Kate, more Jinx, I think that's pretty good for Hope. So we're going to have to see if that ends up being the case. But I'm going to go with a weird one and say Hope. I don't think a lot of other LPL or AL fans would say that. But
Yeah.
I think Hope was, if they want to play well, I think if he plays up to that level, which he can in this meta pocket, I think that's a really good sign for AL. And what a good tournament performance might depend on for them.
He's also got, in Split 3, was undefeated on Sivir, and for the year, 92% win rate, which is something. Yeah. 10-0 on Sivir in Summer Split. That's 0-4 on Lucian. So he's got his picks.
I don't trust the Lucian as much. I know his Kai'Sa's 4-4. I do trust the Kai'Sa.
Yeah.
And he was using more Jinx in Split 1. Like, they were really quick to using a Jinx Lulu combo that was quite good.
I like it. That always comes back at Worlds. Games slow down a little bit, get a little bit of hyper carry in there, get some resets.
She's such a strong identity champ to have in some of those later games, which I think can really benefit in Fearless, right? Where you just need a team identity.
All right, so we've covered the 3 LPL teams, but I realize I haven't asked you to rank them. I did this with Ox, where even though the 1, 2, 3, 4 was with KT in there and then T1 at the bottom, Ox still said KT was the weakest Korean team to go to Worlds. Do you think this 1, 2, 3, 4 is how you would rank their relative strength going into Worlds? Is BLG 1, AL 2, TES 3, IG 4, or how would you do it?
I think relative strength going in, I mean, if I'm going to respect what I saw on paper, I'd have to put Top Esports second, just based on Split 3.
But are you factoring in their choke factor? Points. Or are you just going to say it's not going to happen?
I'm going to say it's not going to happen. I have Top Esports is still probably the weakest LPL team going. And then I still think if you're an LPL fan, I think that your best hope is going to be AL. There is like some things that for me are just very fundamentally wrong about BLG, and they've never fixed them because Bin and Knight are so damn good, and Elk is also so good, and they can just get away with stuff that other teams can't. And I think that we really saw at MSI, like Beishuan and On just be a very weak jungle support duo and play, I think, very disconnected versus the rest of the team. And Shadow has really helped with that, but I still just don't believe that Shadow and On can go win an international tournament. Like, I'm never gonna believe that, no matter what they put on paper, right? Like, I've seen too much history in a sense.
This is one of the funniest things to me as an outsider watching the LPL is like the
Shadow won.
Well, just the LPL being the region that just swaps out junglers like crazy. BLG is the biggest ones for this because from like last year playing 2 junglers to this year switching to 2 completely different junglers and then just leaving the rest of the team the same. But then even, IG with JJ and Wei, Cubby and Tarzan are the 2 solid ones because they're kind of legendary players, but just like,
even Tarzan swapped teams for this year,
like,
right?
Yeah, for sure. And he's had a new team. Is Shadow even good? Like, I know he helped them, but is it literally just a honeymoon phase for these guys? Like, because Bin and Knight are so like likely demanding and hard to play with because they're so both individually amazing. And then like this just seems like such a hard team to jungle for because Elk is on his day the best AD carry in the game. Knight, the best Chinese mid laner we've ever had.
He's so good.
And then Bin as well, ever since he debuted on Suning in 2020, has just had the potential to dominate every single game. So it is one of those things where you have 3 players that are constantly going to want resources. So someone's always going to be pitched to the jungler every single game.
You're not wrong. It's funny because we translate some stuff for the LPL English broadcast. I know that a lot of people don't tune into like the first 10 minutes of the broadcast before a game starts, but we try and do some heavy lifting and do a broadcast for that. And yeah, I mean, we translated things where like they're joking behind the scenes about the jungle honeymoon, like, oh, like we just need to swap again, like it's fine.
Is the jungle just like right there, or just like, okay, guys?
Yes, they're laughing about it too, right? And it's funny too because in a way, this is almost like a blank Bengi situation because they marched out Beishuan early in these series and playoffs. And the way it worked is that it was Shadow. It was Beishuan very early on, and then they got Shadow. And then once Shadow came in, they like Beishuan lost a game in like early in the regular season. They just started running Shadow, and they go on this like big win streak, right? And then end of regular season comes, they drop the last few series they played, and then they go back to Beishuan for playoffs. And then they go through playoffs and things are fine. And then they started running Beishuan plus Shadow in a series. And I mean, I think there's any role in theory where you're going to swap out for League, it probably is jungle. Because you can go look at the game with full vision with your coach and be like, hey, well, I mean, what do we notice, right? Like, can we go punish that? And it almost feels like BLG, like they kind of did that in playoffs. And Shadow played really well. I mean, we had jokes on the broadcast, like, okay, guys, like however big Shadow's smile is like, that's going to be the odds that BLG can win this game. Like, how happy is your jungler, right?
Yeah.
But I find it pretty amazing that On has survived this entire time, being someone who I feel like is a good laner and a good domestic support. But if I have to go back and point out like where BLG's shortcomings were internationally, I think that they have always lost to T1 because their Zeus is the one top laner in the world that could always match Bin individually, right? And then Keria was just straight up better than On. And as a tandem for jungle support, no matter what jungler BLG trotted out, the tandems were better that they went up against in Owner and Keria. So for me, it was always like, I don't think very highly of On, or as highly of On as others might. I feel like he, in Fearless Draft, like he isn't exactly the one that is punished, but he has too many iffy games. And I think that the default for BLG is just always going to be, okay, we're just going to try and smash lanes.
Right.
Which can very much be seen by like later game, they'll play Kate Elise in a fear, and they've a lot of people have talked about this. Like if Elise comes out, I mean, On does play that pick very well. Or I think Bin's most played champion was Renekton.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be the case if swaps are a thing because Renekton 1 through 3 is he needs 3 to be a champion, right? That's not great for swaps, but yeah, I think it very much speaks to BOG where okay, like our default for top lane is going to be the resourceless like mobile top laner that can play his lanes out on his own early on and be strong, and we're going to win games from there. This is still a team that will play very fast and play to individually beat you.
Yeah.
It's just that, again, I think the way they play map, they never really had to play map perfectly because they were just way too good. Like, they're too good at players where they get away with this bullshit for so long. And then when they go up against the best teams from the LCK, oh no, like we didn't play sides as well for the year, or oh no, we didn't like move around these objectives as well for the year as these guys. And like now we lose, right? Because again, individually, you're challenged to find a tandem where your carries are Bin, Knight, and Elk, and you have 3 players of that individual caliber. There are only a handful of teams in the world that can even come close to matching that or match it, you know?
It's also hard to develop, like, as you're mentioning On underperforming and being inconsistent. Like, it's also hard to be consistent when your jungler changes so often.
Yeah, true. I just see like the jungler changing like 5 or 6 times. I'm like, you know, maybe we should try something else. Because the other role I changed is probably support, right? I will say that support as a role, I very much think that like historically too, Korea, like they've just had the best supports. And I think LPL in that role has struggled, where Mako and Ming were really the ones that were able to be individual like global stars at that role. And they haven't been able to find other supports that could really match. Like Missing was always, I think Missing was fine, but never was as good as Keria. And I mean, I could go down the list.
I could list a lot of supports that were never as good as Keria.
But you can win a best of 5 without being as good as Keria.
Yeah.
And that was not the case.
I mean, if you're Barrel,
I don't think
apparently he's the only one who's been able to do it in the last 3 years.
Barrel on the right day, you know. Or I mean, of late Duro or like I mean, the Hens into White again. I think
fair.
The pool over there is just better, right? So that's been, and even when EU was winning and beating LPL, I mean, I thought Mickey X was fantastic. Like he was the big story for me on that team. So yeah, I think this is a role that Kyle has the highest odds of matching. I will still say that with all the supports the LPL is sending.
Right. Yeah. So just really quick, because I don't think we touched on it, the story of the year for BLG was split one kickoff tournament type thing. Really disappointing for BLG. They lose to TES like early on in the lower bracket of the playoffs after not doing that great. Split two, they make a decent run all the way to finals, lose to AL 3-1, then have not a very good MSI showing based on their standards. Part of the reason the LPL is getting slept on, or not slept on, getting rated the way that they are going into this Worlds. But then split three, third place in regular season, 10-4 in series, 22-14 in games. However, in playoffs, beat JDG in 5 games, beat IG in 4 games, beat TES in upper bracket in 5 games, and then also beat TES in 5 games in finals to be the champion. So they peaked at the right time. But if it's the overall level of the year, they just win one split out of 3. So it's not a FlyQuest situation where there's a very clear, or Gen G situation where there's a clear number one team.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's I just think that there's a clear number one player from the LPL, and that player is still Knight. Like I could not. So us as an English broadcast, we voted Knight for our MVP with the Discord we have, so like other people that watch. So it wasn't just us as a broadcast team, but we had Knight as MVP for both splits 2 and 3, and Knight did not win MVP by the Pogs and the standard LPL broadcast for splits 2 and 3. So I think he almost got the LeBron treatment, where he is just the best
So
player.
good for so long.
And yeah, he just doesn't win MVP for whatever reason. But this guy is so good. It is so fun to watch Knight play. And there are other good mid laners in the LPL. I mean, this is a very competitive role, and Knight is just day in and day out the best of them. And I do think that part of why they lost in Split 2 was that Shanks was kind of rivaling that level more. That Knight has just always been able to hit, and Knight wasn't straight up diffing as much. But no, Summer, I felt like Knight was diffing all the time. This guy was willing to play Ziggs into Azir, which I really like as a matchup. I don't think a lot of players are willing to play it, but he played it really well. And again, I just think that he is the mid laner from the LPL that just has always played mages to this just crazy high level, where I feel like in some past metas or years, it has always been the LCK mids that played the better mages or the better Azir. Because I know Azir was a really big pick in, I think, when DRX won. I felt like I was talking with Kelsey back then about how we felt like all the Azirs coming from the LCK were just better. As like a really big meta-defining pick.
Yep.
And the way they played around it, like it was very intentional because they were playing to attack his mana pool. With like jungler just like cruising through mid after 3 camps, getting Azir to E, and like that was a very methodical way to play with and against Azir. I feel like Scout and Knight were like the 2 Azirs I could kind of match them. It's like very like narrow on one champ, but he has just always played mages so well. Some other LPL mids have really struggled to play mages at as high of a level. This guy is so good at whatever he pulls out. It was really fun to see him like dig in. He has one game of Mel, one game with Sandra, one game of Swain, one game of Akali, and then one game of his Ari in summer.
Right.
That is his historical best champion,
Yeah.
right? So I'm curious to see what the mid lane meta looks like, because they did change around some champs and items there by nerfing Azir, Orianna, and buffing champs like LeBlanc and Ari before Worlds. But I don't care what the meta is. Knight's going to be one of the best players in the tournament.
Yeah.
And if you don't have him at that going in, then man, you got to treat yourself to watch some more Knight in LPL. This guy is so good.
Yeah. So he's going to be your star. Who's your hero for BLG?
Yeah. It's Elk. Elk was the best player all year on this team from start to finish. I know that Knight, is the perennial MVP candidate. I felt like Elk had his best year from start to finish with BLG. Bin struggled at points this year. And struggle for Bin is being a mid-tier top laner, but still, it's Bin, right?
Yep.
Jungle struggled. You're swapping out junglers throughout the year, right? H1 wasn't even on this team in Split 1. On at times struggled. On had really off games, and I think you're right in saying that whatever jungler you're playing with, like it's tough as a support sometimes to match with that. But regardless, I feel like On had some oopsie games and some oopsie moments. Elk was really, really solid. I remember talking with FlyQuest before MSI, because BOG was such a frustrating team for me. I really felt like Fly could beat them because, again, just like Brains versus Brawn. And Fly is a smart team. It's like, all right, but if you're playing against Elk, do not give him Xayah. and do not give him Ezreal, because those are the two ADs where he can play by himself and let the rest of BOG just dive and do what they do best and play as individuals.
Yeah.
And Elk can manage himself. And yeah, I mean, Xayah was his most played in summer. I think his Ezreal in Split 2 was a crazy rating. If I go look up what it was in spring. He had 17 games at Ezreal with a 70% win rate.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of Ezreal games.
Yeah, I think it's very telling that like they want games where Elk is kind of on his own or can handle himself, because it just makes it easier to go smork teams, right? And I think that especially with the Beishuan team, Beishuan and On as a tandem very much suffered from being too far ahead of what the team wanted to do, or just being off and desynced. So yeah, it's a lot easier to do that when your AD's Ezreal, right? It's a lot more forgiving, and he can kind of follow up and be a part of everything.
Okay, I think we got it. Now we're going to touch back on something you said at the start for the last segment here. Do you still think that LPL only has a 20% chance of winning Worlds, or is it a little higher?
Yeah. No.
Or is it lower?
If anything, yeah.
So we got FlyQuest and G2 getting a couple percent, or no?
No, probably not. I feel very confident it's going to be a Korean team this year.
But if it's 20%, let's just take the 20%. You need to distribute your points. You need to distribute your 20 points. How many of those points go to AL, BLG, TES?
None go to IG.
None?
I don't think IG makes top
That's
16.
fair.
None go to IG. Even if they do, they have flaws. I have to give Top Esports just a sliver, because they are a good enough team to win. It's just that, like, choker narrative or... So I feel like I have to give them like a 2% chance, because I think Top Esports is a team that could legitimately, like, the individuals can win.
Is that two? I mean, let's keep it simple with the points. You have 20 points. So are they getting 2 of the 20 points, or are they getting like...
They're getting 2 of the 20.
Okay.
Top Esports are getting 2 of the 20. And then I will go...
Got 18 left for the last 2 teams.
I will go 12% AL and 6% BLG.
So you're actually given double the chance to AL, just because you think BLG is too flawed of a team to actually make a run in Fearless Best of Fives through Gen G, HLE, T1, stuff like that.
I think AL are a smarter team. And I think that again, you have to fight objectives. Like, you have to play that way. I think BLG's way to solve that is very much brute force. And AL's way to solve that is a little bit more like, okay, these are the champs we have, these are the champs you have, and here's how we can play out this game, right? I'm going to trust that team a wee bit more. I think Tarzan and Kyle as a tandem, I trust them so much more than Shadow / Beishuan and On. And I think jungle support it matters so much when you're stuck in lanes, because that's how you can break the lanes. And if you're not on point there, then your objective setups are off, and you're not breaking the lanes, and those are the 2 most important things about the game right now. So I trust Tarzan and Kyle the most.
All right, I'm gonna zag a little bit here. Having watched much less LPL and LCK, I'm just gonna be looking at trends and international tournaments, and I feel like I agree. You know, this is after the long conversation I had with Ox and the long conversation I've just had with you. You're a big LPL downer, that's for sure.
I am. Yeah.
The trends would make me think that it is closer than it feels, because
for sure.
Let's go back to the last 2 years of Swiss. I have World's history dating all the way back to 2014 in terms of how many teams advance from group stage to quarterfinals. And for the longest time, Korea would get pretty much all of their teams out every single time, and the LPL would be the team that generally would have, like, on average, 1 team that would choke. So a lot of times they'd only advance 2 teams. And that was before both regions ended up just getting 4 seeds kind of forever, in which case a lot of times LCK was advancing 4 teams. But the last 2 years with Swiss, Korea is actually the region that has had teams not make it through to bracket stage. So, like, LPL's actually had all 4 of their teams advance through Swiss, both years of Swiss, which I think is a nice, like, upper for the general quality of the region at an international tournament. Whereas LCK was 3-3. To the point of T1 IG, I do favor T1 in that matchup, but I think it's a sleeper for IG. And then when I look at the MSI results as well, like, yes, Gen G T1 was the final, but those were very close series. that AL was
Yeah,
losing.
They were.
And I think they could have taken them if a few things go differently. And that's not even to say last year's World Final, where Faker had to go Super Saiyan in games 4 and 5 to not have BLG just win Worlds, right? Like he makes one misplay in one of those Silas or Galio games, and LPL is the defending world champion. I think that completely shifts the narrative. So, I mean, you've obviously watched the whole year of LPL and you have a low feeling of the general strength of the region versus the LCK. But when I just look at the overall trends, like it has been a lot of close defeats for the LPL.
Yeah.
Like the Faker runs were so entertaining because he was on the cusp of defeat multiple times. Like if Faker doesn't go Super Saiyan on Ruler in the JDG series in 2023.
And that they were the favorites of the tournament too.
They were the favorites of the tournament, right? And then BLG goes to 5 games against Faker as well. Not to mention, if it wasn't for the T1 team, like T1 has been such a singular force that I feel like it's elevating the LCK, maybe a little bit above. So that's my copium for a competitive world championship between LPL and LCK is that removing T1 makes things actually look incredibly competitive, maybe even slightly LPL favored. But then the reality is T1 just completely dominated them. So you can't completely discount that, winning 7 best-of-5s in the last 3 Worlds knockout stages against the LPL and eliminating basically the whole region for 2.5 years straight. So we'll know a lot more on the 15th after T1 and IG play. Because if T1's out of this thing, I actually feel like it's going to give the LPL a lot of hope and energy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big bet that a lot of LCK, people are making are that just Gen G, they are the best team in the world, and they're going to play like it. And I think the second part of that, though, I think has been kind of the difference maker, at least for me, in your LCK versus LPL success, because Gen G very much have a bit of a choker narrative, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have been a favorite coming into some of these worlds, but it's like, oh, you know what? They've dominated T1 domestically for many years now with many different iterations of their roster, whereas T1 hasn't changed. But when push comes to shove, it's international, and Faker's here, and the rest of T1 plays up to that, right?
Yeah.
Which has been it is just kind of wild that has happened for the last 3 years, maybe. That we've seen T1 come to Worlds. So I'm with you in the sense that T1 is definitely, if you remove them from the equation, LPL has a better record. But also part of that is, I think Gen G was perceived to be a stronger team than the region for the majority of those tournaments outside of JDG.
Yeah.
And just didn't deliver or step up or were able to play the tournament they wanted to from start to finish. So that's an interesting thread for me too, just seeing if JDG can deliver or Gen G can deliver this time, which is going to be interesting because I think that, with this iteration of the roster, it does seem like this Gen G is maybe the strongest that we have with Fearless and everything, which is kind of crazy.
All right. I think that's it for the LPL.
Yeah.
I think we did it. I want to give you, first, thank you for watching if you made it to this point. Please comment, subscribe. I don't do the YouTube things enough. You're supposed to say that at the start or in the middle of the video because then it's more likely to happen, but I still got it in. But I want to just give you a chance, Cubby, to plug what you're going to be up to during the World Championship.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm not sure what I'm going to be up to during Worlds, honestly. We'll see. You can follow me everywhere at CubbyXX. On Twitter and Twitch. Right now I've got the LTA promotion tournament, so I got a call time in an hour.
Thanks for waking up. You've been casting late at night. You've been casting late in the afternoon as well, and now I'm having you podcast in the morning. So
that's fine. Shout out to caffeine. My sleep schedule's always been flexible. It's the only thing that I a bit of a skill. I will say that I may or may not have almost fallen asleep during one of the ASI games because I don't have my schedule on the LPL schedule. I've been keeping it normal. So we'll see if I get on the LPL schedule again for Worlds in China. But thanks for having me, man. This was fun. We've had probably the longest we've ever talked league, even though we've had a lot of chats.
Potentially, we spend a lot of 4 and 5 hour sessions together on the golf course, and we talk about league for maybe 2 minutes, and then maybe we go back to the next shot. Yeah. Okay. Take care of yourself. Thank you, and thanks everybody for watching.